Before we get into the hands-on of how to set up alerts, let's take a minute to talk about some high-level concepts around alerting. This is an image of an FM radio signal. It's pretty easy to see the signal right here in the middle. It's the big spike. If you were watching it while listening to it, you'd actually see it jump around as the music plays. But there's something else apart from the signal. All this stuff around it is called noise. It's what you hear when you're not quite tuned to the station, the static between stations. Imagine that instead of being able to tune right into the station on your radio, you also had to hear all of that noise as well, just a low-level hiss in the background. It would make listening to the radio pretty tiring for your ears. That's why radios are able to isolate the signal and focus on a narrower bandwidth. In the same way, we can think of logging as signal and noise. A lot of what gets logged is stuff we don't generally care about. For example, web access logs. You don't necessarily want to disable logging because sometimes you need to go back and debug an issue, but at the same time, most of it is just noise. When using a tool like Splunk, you're often trying to pick out that signal, that is the logs that you actually care about from the noise. This is where alerts can come in. You can use search and reporting, even dashboards, to scan through the radio station, so to speak, looking through the logs for interesting data. But once you've identified something that you want to know about, it should go into an alert. To use our radio metaphor, this is a bit like setting favorites on your car radio. Just like it would be tiring to listen to a radio that's tuned to both noise and signal at the same time, it's really tiring when your alerts aren't specific enough. Let's say your company has a web app, and sometimes the database gets a bit backlogged under heavy load. It's not a crisis usually. It generally just resolves itself in a few minutes. But it can be a sign that the entire app is about to crash. You might be tempted to set up an alert for any time that the database is getting slow, maybe to send an email. But if this is a daily or hourly occurrence, you're probably going to completely ignore those emails. Although the signal is important, you haven't adequately separated it from the noise. A better approach would be to identify when the potential problem is likely a serious problem. Is it when there are 99 requests queued up? Or when the queries take more than some number of seconds? If you can define a line at which you really do care about the issue, that's where your alerts should trigger. Everything below that can be handled by searches, reports, and dashboards. One last thought before we move on. In your alerting strategy, you should set a line where you think something really is an emergency and act accordingly. For example, if you use a third-party service like PagerDuty, which integrates with Splunk, by the way, you can trigger an SMS or push notification. The idea is that whatever is happening is important enough to wake someone up and fix it. I think it's important to actually have this level of emergency alerting, but also to constantly evaluate if a specific alert should be page-worthy. If you're routinely paging for things that could wait until the next business day, you need to adjust your alerts.